The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Pat Scott. Hi, Pat.
Howdy.
And Father Andrew Kinstetter. Hi, Father Andrew.
Hello, Dom.
We talk about technology news from a uniquely Catholic point of view, and one of the things we Catholics do is we think about one of the things we think about, not all the things we think about, is the end, with the end of our life, preparing ourselves to meet our Maker, to see God, and hopefully spend eternity with Him in bliss, in the beatific vision. But we have to consider the people we leave behind, and this is a long way about to get to our topic, which is how to prepare our digital lives for the people who will survive us. And I don't intend this to be morbid or at all, a downer. But the fact is we all need to be ready. We know none of us know the day or the hour that our time will come. It doesn't always come with a 6 month or a year or 3 year prognosis. Sometimes you step off a curb in front of a bus. So we always have to be ready. We have to be spiritually ready, but we also have to be ready in the practical aspects of life. And the reason I say that is one of the areas we have to be ready is in our technology, in our digital life. We're online more than ever. We're digital more than ever before, and those things are important. And so we have to be ready to hand those things off to whether it's a spouse or to other family or to friends who will take care of that stuff for us afterward. So Pat, you suggested this topic, I guess, because you probably work with a lot of people who are concerned about this, right?
Yes, a large number of my clients are above 55. And so I have been helping teach a class for this age group on getting your digital life in order, and have been working with a lawyer and another woman who is used to doing a lot with photography. So this topic has been on my mind for the last year because I've been helping teach this class. And it's been a hugely popular class. People are asking us to set up additional sessions more than what we had because they realize I don't have a clue what to do with my digital stuff. So I try to lay it out for them, basically in terms of people getting access to their stuff, but also social media and what to do looking at that. It really was prompted by a situation where I had a lady whose daughter committed suicide, and she was frantic to get all of this stuff done. Right. And so that was what put me on this path.
Father Andrew, you're a younger guy. You're obviously single. So it's not like you have like a spouse that you need to take care of, but I would guess that this might concern you as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically enough, I'm 30, so I'm not anywhere near to really thinking about this kind of thing. But with all the passwords and accounts for the various websites and social media and credit card and bank and all that kind of stuff that I just have on my phone, I have occasionally thought of, well, what would happen if I died, and it was my time to go, and what would happen? And so I'm actually really thankful for this tip our show today, because I kind of wondered about this kind of stuff, but figured I've got plenty of time to kind of put this together before I need to worry about it. But it's definitely something that 8 years ago, my aunt died from complications to lung cancer. And I got into the realm of this whole world because we were wondering what to do with her Facebook account. Mm-hmm. And at that time, there was no legacy contact, but there was a way to memorialize the page. And so I entered a whole new world when I started to figure out, well, what does Facebook do when someone dies?
Right.
And so it has been on my mind off and on, but definitely this is going to give me a lot more to think about, and even something to give to my mom and dad, who typically, you know, they're what they've done is safety deposit box at the bank.
Right.
But more and more, everyone is swapping over to the online accounts and all of that stuff. So I'm pretty sure they'll really appreciate this sort of a show as well.
Honestly, I think dioceses should begin to prepare presentations for priests on how to deal with this stuff, because they are going to need this information for their family members who have to take over for their stuff, their estate, when they're gone.
Yep.
Because they don't have a spouse who's sitting in the wings ready to do it.
Well, and you point out something really important there, that, yeah, like my mom and dad share accounts in all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
I do not share my account with anyone, and not that I want to be secretive about anything, but I have no reason to share my account with anyone as a spouse or a child, or, you know, I could do something with my brother, but that's still a separate sort of entity. So yeah, you're absolutely right there.
So let's get into it. But the first thing the suggestion is perhaps to, well, you know, everyone should be using a password manager these days. I mean, that's a pretty basic technology tip. It is, you should be using unique passwords for every sign in that you have. I have to be honest. There are some things that I use an easy to use password for, stuff I don't really care about, like my sign in to a newspaper. I don't really care if someone hacks that. You know, go read the Boston Globe on my account. Woo! You know, I mean, but
go for it.
Yeah, but for the most part, you know, for the important stuff, you want a password manager, and most password managers today allow for family or team accounts of some sort. So I use 1Password with my wife, Melanie, and we have a shared vault where all of the important passwords are kept. The bank account and all that stuff. I also have my mom, my elderly mom. I have her on my 1Password family account, and she's not in that shared vault. They call it the vault, is the storage place. She's not in that shared library of passwords. I have a separate one with her, so that is when my mom's time comes or something happens, I can have access to all that stuff without having to go through, you know, sending in, death certificates and all that sort of stuff, or what have you. I can just log in and take care of things as necessary. So that's one thing. So if you know ahead of time, have these shared accounts and a password manager. Is that what either of you do? I mean, do you both have password managers? Father Andrew, I assume.
Yeah, I use 1Password as well, and I didn't even realize that there was this emergency contact sort of feature of it.
Yes, that's something separate.
I was disappointed to find out that that's part of the subscription fee, though, which I don't pay.
Right.
But yes, I definitely use 1Password.
And I use LastPass, and I've tried Dashlane and a couple of others. And LastPass, if you're an individual, not part of a family, they have an emergency contact thing where you can set it up. And I've got 2 of my kids that are signed up to get my passwords when something happens to me. I do understand that there's a family plan. I have not set that up. For people who are individuals, having somebody that they can share a family plan with to be able to get to the stuff would be a way around the problem of not having a password emergency contact. Because from what I understood, 1Password, the last time I looked, there was no way to do that. So they told you how to print it out and save it with your stuff. They would not give you any help.
So there's 2 different things, right? There's the 1Password for family or teams. Teams is intended for businesses. Family is intended for family members. And I'm going to guess that family is fairly loosely defined. If it would include your brother and a sister, and you can split the cost or however you want to do it. But even for individuals, so you could have this emergency, what they call an emergency kit, which is basically, it's a printout where you write down your user the administrator login email, there's a long secret code, a unique secret code, and then there's your password, and then there's a QR code that you can scan to get in, and then it's something you print and store in a safe, secure place, preferably a fireproof safe that someone else has the combination to, that sort of thing, because all these things you got to make sure someone else has an access to it,
and get to easily, not in a safety deposit box that you'd have to go through hoops to get to.
Right, that's a big thing, is check the laws, and we'll talk about that in a sec too, about safety deposit boxes and storing things in them. So that's 1Password. Then there's this other thing that LastPass does, which is you can designate it an emergency access contact, a person who can contact them and request. You say activate that, basically saying something has happened and I need the emergency access. And so it's two different approaches to a similar thing, and that's different from the shared account sort of stuff. But it's two different approaches to a similar thing, and which one you choose really depends on you and what you prefer, and what works best for your situation. It's good that there's different approaches. So there's that. Dashlane has a similar emergency feature to LastPass. One thing to keep in mind with passwords is two-factor authentication is big now. Okay. And
it complicates things, though.
It does.
Yes.
So you need both the password and this other code that's constantly changing. And usually that code is running in an app on the person's phone or their watch, like I have. And if you don't have access to if you need the code to get into the 1Password, to get onto the phone, you can get stuck. You have to think these things through logically. What do I need in order to get started here? One of the things that 1Password does is it can generate the two-factor codes in the list, so you can have it store the password, but also keep the two-factor code in the same entry. Some security researchers say that's a bad idea because it means your password and your two-factor code are in the same place and someone wants to break into it, one of those things. It undermines the whole point of a two-factor. I think you still get more security than if you don't have the two-factor at all. But I think it also means that if someone else needs to have access, if they can get into your password account, they can get to your two-factor codes at the same time. What do you think? What would your opinion be, Pat?
Well, my question is I thought that the two-factor codes that get generated in my Authenticator app or in whatever it is, that those were disposable, that they aren't good later.
Well, no, so there's a authentication, there's a two-factor generator built into 1Password.
Okay, that's specifically for that app. Okay,
right.
I'm thinking about most people don't have that, so
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think LastPass incorporates that into the app. So 1Password does. So at the time that you set up your two-factor authentication, you do it the same way you normally do, where you take a picture of the QR code. But this one, 1Password can do it on your desktop computer. It puts a little window up, and you put the window over the code, and it reads it.
Okay, so it's an emergency code, not exactly a two-factor authentication.
No, it's still the regular two-factor authentication.
Okay.
So say I'm setting up two-factor authentication on Facebook for my login,
right? And
it says, okay, now use your authentication app. So like you might use Google Authenticator on your phone,
right,
or 1Password. Use that app to take a picture of this QR code to get started generating the two-factor authenticator code. So you could use 1Password to do that, and now every 30 seconds in your 1Password, it will throw up the new code because it's constantly regenerating it every 30 seconds. So 1Password would be the way of doing that. So instead of having Google Authenticator on your phone, or in addition to it, both codes are, because it's an algorithm, both codes will always be the same in Google Authenticator and 1Password. But because it's in 1Password, it means that whoever has access to your 1Password passwords will always have access to your two-factor codes.
Okay. Well, the other thing, for those people who aren't using that, I also suggest that, wherever they're keeping their will, and that should be in a place that all your family knows where it is, in a file drawer or whatever, in a folder right beside that, you say, here's my LastPass password or my 1Password master one.
Yeah.
And I'm using my phone as my two-factor authentication, and here's the code to get into my phone. And for me, it's also, here's my Apple user ID password in case they need that.
Right.
So those pieces of information should be right beside the will.
Right.
So people could get to them.
Right. That's true. Father, so what do you think? Do you think that doing this, putting the two-factor in the same place as your regular password, is that so we're weighing things here? Is it the lower security?
I guess I'm okay with it. I think there comes a point when you can be overly cautious and it can just cause confusion.
Right.
And sure, if someone is really tech savvy and smart and wants to steal your information, sure, they're going to know what to look for and they're going to find it and they're going to pull it and you're going to be compromised. Sure, right. Absolutely. But if you're putting this particular document in a locked safe that's, fireproof and it's for your family and it's in the basement of your mom's house, I think the risk is fairly low for someone to go in knowing exactly that that's what they need to look for and that's the code that they need. And I think the likelihood of someone stealing my information because I've got the two-factor code along with the master password in the same places is just, I think it's just being overly cautious.
Okay.
And I would rather, especially for something like that, when I do die, I'd want it to be as simple for those that are trying to figure out my accounts and passwords as I can. I don't want them to have to try to jump through all sorts of extra hoops and know how to unlock my phone and whether I left my PIN code for them. And that's just, I think that can be more frustrating than it's worth.
Especially when someone's in a grieving process too.
Yeah.
You don't want to burden people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the storage of stuff. We kind of touched on it. So safe deposit box is probably not the best place to store pretty much any of your estate planning documents, your will and that sort of stuff, because in most states and in most countries, you can't get in unless you're the owner of the box. You can't get in until the estate has gone through the courts, which you can't do until they have your will.
Right.
So you probably should either you have the safe deposit box jointly with someone, which if you have a spouse, that might be. Although you have to consider, what if there's an accident and you both die? Right. So you got to be careful of that. So other places, like we mentioned, a fireproof safe that someone else knows how to get into, fireproof, waterproof safe in your house. File it with your attorney who helped you create it. They can hold on to it for you. Any other ideas where such things could be stored?
I know this is... Oh, go ahead, Pat.
I was just going to say, we had one client that was talking about having a copy of their will digitally so that somebody could get to it. And that's nice if the person who's trying to help you do your estate stuff knows how to get to the digital copy and where it is, et cetera. So I always tell people, it's fine to have a digital copy, but you really need that paper copy.
You can't file a digital copy with the court either.
It has to be, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, at least with our lawyers, they keep the copy, but we keep the original of the will. They do not want to have the responsibility of keeping the original.
Right.
So the court can go back to them for proof that it was filed and a copy, but you wouldn't want to give them the password manager stuff because that's, again, somebody's not going to know where to look,
right?
Who to ask at that point.
And I was just going to say the same thing as Pat. I think that you could do a digital file of it, although I think that's less secure and less ideal. Yeah.
Right. You have to think about if you're going to store any stuff in the cloud, where is it? How can someone get at it? How is it secure until it's needed? That sort of stuff. And so you got to think that through if you're going to do that. But there are ways to store things in the cloud securely so that someone else also knows how to get it. But you got to think that through somewhat. You can't just throw it into Dropbox from to iCloud and expect it to be accessible.
Right.
Or if you wanted to go old school with air quotes there, throw it onto a USB flash drive or something and put that in a safe place. Right.
But again, that would be good, but they are tiny. They can get lost and they can die.
They can get corrupted. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you had multiple things where you had, oh, I've got USB drive in my filing cabinet, and I've got my copy of my will, and I've got whatever, then you're better off. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about, what is some specifics, like, so say someone, a loved one dies, and they're everywhere. They have a Google, they have a Gmail account, they have Facebook, Twitter, iCloud, they have an iPhone, Apple Photos that they've got all over the place. They have a Microsoft OneDrive, LinkedIn account. How do we deal with How do we deal with all that? So the first one, let's talk about Google. Like Pat, how do we prepare for, because everyone's got a Google account, it seems. How do we prepare for that? Yeah.
Yeah, there's Google has an inactivity account manager that I've set up, and I've helped a lot of my clients set up, that basically says, okay, you can have up to 10 people that you can designate as your inactive account manager. And Google, every few months, if you haven't signed into your Google account, it starts ticking and says, okay, are you still there? It tries to contact you with your text. It tries various ways to get a hold of you. And after a certain amount of time, those inactive account people get contacted and said, okay, we can't get a hold of her. It's up to you now. And so, as I say, they have up to 10 people. So I could say, Dom, you get all of my photos, but Stephen gets all my email, and Teresa gets all my blog stuff. Right. Or I could say all of them get access to all, which is what I'm doing, and basically saying, just let them have it all.
Okay.
But I think that more than one person is a good idea on that. So I've chosen two of our kids to be our legacy or our emergency for Google.
And those people can download all your data that you stored with Google.
That's right.
Okay.
They can download it all, or they can go in and close out the accounts. They could, erase it. They could do anything as if they were me, basically.
All right. That's good to know. I mean, that's, there's probably a lot of stuff that nobody cares about, like, decades of old emails with receipts in them and all that sort of stuff. But yet there's the possibility that there's important things in there that you'll want to look at later, that will be either necessary for your estate or just, emails. Sentimental value. Right. The equivalent of the bundle of love letters sent decades ago, that sort of thing. We don't have that anymore. It all exists digitally. And so maybe that's something else, a way for someone to hold on to that. So plus, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a big point about them needing to be able to get to your email, because a lot of times people have gone paperless on billing. And so if you don't have access to their email, you don't know what accounts are being automatically drafted and being paid and stuff like that. Right. So you really do need access to their main email to track down some of that stuff.
It's one of the reasons I've moved to and stayed with a Gmail address for all of my important personal business, because Gmail has these policies. But it's a known factor. If I had, Joe Schmo web hosting where I have my blog and have to rely on them to let my wife at my email, that could be a disaster. This way, it's all in Google, and, something happens to me, she will have access to all of that in Google, and it's not a problem.
It's searchable. It's easy to find, that type of thing.
Exactly. So, Father Angie, you mentioned that when you said your aunt passed away and you had to find out about memorializing her Facebook account. What was that all about? What is memorializing?
Yeah, so obviously Facebook is more or less our online persona. And so when we die, the Facebook account doesn't go away or doesn't do anything. People could still post on someone's wall. They could send them messages. All those sorts of things without even knowing potentially that person had passed away. And so with my aunt, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that something needed to be done with that account, and ended up finding out that Facebook has this process that will memorialize a profile And so that just basically means that when someone has died, a close family member, friend can request that that account be memorialized. And I think with my aunt, and I assume still so, you provide some sort of proof, copy of the death certificate, copy of the obituary, something like that to confirm that this person has indeed died. And then it turns that account that into, it sort of locks the account. I think if you can still post on their wall, it has instead of just their name, it has remembering and then their name along with it. So it becomes sort of a tribute wall, a place for you to remember, share memories. They keep the same friends that they had so they can still see the page. I think now Facebook has a way that you can have a legacy contact for,
right.
So even right now you could set up someone to be a legacy contact for yourself. And what that would mean is that legacy contact, when you die, they would have control over your account. So they could memorialize it for you. They could, add new friends if more people wanted to become friends to see the memorialized page, see messages, I think, and those sorts of things to kind of manage an account after someone has passed away. But it's a really cool way to share memories, to kind of keep in touch with family and friends, especially of a loved one of a family. I was actually just looking at my aunt today and had some of those same sort of experiences of seeing my messages that I sent to her, 8 years ago, and even seeing the wall, her Facebook wall, and cousins posting on it, and just those sorts of things. It's a good way to be able to kind of share some of that in an online form, especially if family members are living far apart. So. That's something Facebook, thankfully, is now built into their whole system.
It's fascinating because Facebook is such a part of our lives for many of us, that this company has figured out a way to let us. There must be. I'm kind of cynical about Facebook. There must be some sort of profit in keeping these pages alive or something. These social graphs. But nevertheless, it's nice to have this opportunity that the accounts just don't disappear, because it's hard enough when you lose somebody. That if the account disappears, so do all the photos that we've tagged them in, and all the posts and all the comments, and all that would go away. This keeps it all there, and it's kind of nice to have it there. And it's one of the things it does is it's very easy to assign a legacy contact. It's like 3 steps. It's really easy.
Right.
Everyone should do it, and that way. And if you say, you know what, I want this account to go away when I die, I want this account to be deleted, you can choose to have it permanently deleted when you die, and to just be, so you do have the choice. But it's nice that you can do that. Not all of the services we're going to talk about will give you this opportunity.
Right. And with Facebook, your legacy contact can also, like you could say, I leave my account up for 6 months, and then the legacy contact could then delete it.
Right.
Which is different than you're just saying, I want it deleted upon my death.
Right.
So that's a nice alternative. The other thing about the memorializing, if you can find a obituary online that you could link to, that's all Facebook needs to memorialize the account. And I've done that for a lot of my clients who have no one to do this for them.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a kindness that you can do for someone.
Right. And for their friends that they may have left behind, far flung as they might be.
I think they've also made it so that if it's memorialized, people no longer get the birthday notices, because that was a little disturbing.
Yes.
Oh,
hey,
sure.
it's so-and-so's birthday right on their wall. Well, maybe not.
Right. That makes sense. I think it said there's a few things that they don't show up in sponsored posts. They don't appear in public spaces such as suggestions for people you may know, ads, or birthday reminders.
Right.
Right. That's good. So let's talk about then there's, to contrast that, there's Twitter, where basically the Twitter's policy is, well, if someone dies, this is how you delete the account. And that's it. There's you can request the removal of a deceased user's account, You can request the removal of an incapacitated user's account, so someone is injured or ill, too
In a
ill
coma.
to use it, right? And that's it. There's no memorializing. There's which I think kind of goes along with the ephemeral nature of Twitter, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's sort of come and gone and quick 144 character kind of life anyway.
right.
So there's your death in 140 characters.
Right.
But I mean, like if I'm going to go look at my pictures of a loved one, I'm going to go to their Facebook versus Twitter.
Right.
It's much harder
Right.
to kind of search through that on Twitter anyway. So Twitter's sort of a, here and gone
That and
kind of thing.
Snapchat and WhatsApp
Yeah.
and
Right.
those things are pretty much ephemeral.
I didn't
Yeah.
check Instagram, but since Instagram is a Facebook product, I'm going to guess it's probably the same as the Facebook account. I didn't check it. I think
From what I remember, I think that they don't have a way to memorialize the Instagram. At least the last time I checked, I was going through them and didn't see that. But they may have added it more recently.
So I just pulled up the help document on Instagram, and it does say that they will memorialize an Instagram account.
I
So
can
it-
add
it-
that to my list then.
It looks like it's obviously very, very similar to Facebook. You contact them, they require proof of death, and then they will memorialize the account.
Great, because I'm glad to know that then.
Excellent. LinkedIn, I checked with their customer service. According to them, they said the survivor can ask for the account to be deactivated. So similar. You can, and you could go through, and we could talk about a lot of different ones. There's actually a website. I'll put the link in the show notes along with all these links from a website called Everplans. They have a
Right.
big list of how to close online accounts and services when someone dies. So, I mean, it's got A to Z, literally, of dozens of different sites, but all conveniently located, which is great. So if you have any specific ones that you're trying to find, you could look there. We should probably talk, though, about Apple's terms, because with Apple, we have iCloud, but we have Apple Music, we have Apple Photos, we have
Apple TV,
and then messages and all that sort of stuff. This is not
Notes, reminders,
Right.
Yeah, all of that.
Basically, if you don't have the password to get in, you're out of luck. Basically, there is in the iCloud terms of service, there is no right of survivorship unless otherwise required by law. Your account is non-transferable. So you don't get if you buy the entire catalog of Beatles music, sorry, that dies with you.
You can set up a family plan for some things.
Right.
And in that case, your surviving family would still have access to it. But that's going to be harder to do with somebody who's not related to you.
Right.
So
Right.
that's another place a family plan could help.
I'm not sure.
For the app store for purchases and music and videos, etc.
Right. No, I was trying to find what it said about photos, and I didn't see it. So, like a photo library.
I think they're gone.
Right. So again, and this is one of my big complaints about Apple service is it does not have a family photo library. I have had to set up a Rube Goldberg of a system in order to get my wife's photos into our shared iPhoto library, which is on my account. It's all through automation and Dropbox and all this sort of importing baloney. But the fact is, there should be, and they tell you, well, you could share albums. Well, I want to share everything. All of our photos should be in one place, of all the kids and all that stuff. Because if something happens to me, I want her to be able to get to it all. And that's why I need to make sure she has my password. But it's really a frustration because, these are our photos, and so there should be.
Right.
I've said this for a decade. There should be a family photo library, and Apple needs to fix that. That is just. In fact, I think Google actually has a family or a you could share a whole library, right? Am I wrong on that, Google Photos?
I don't know about that.
Wow.
That's not something I looked at. I just know that your Google Photos, you can have your legacy take them.
Yes.
But I don't think that there's a shared Google photo space that I'm aware of.
So that's why I have Google Photos uploads all low res versions of our photos, like the
Right.
not the highest resolution, but all the lower resolution versions.
The good resolution, as they call it.
Exactly. Those are all uploaded to my Google account, so that again, if something happens to me, at least we have those. If she can't get into iPhoto,
she could get to your Mac, and she could get to the photos there and export them.
Right, as long as she can get to my Mac. But like say I'm on an airplane and I have my phone, my iPod, my iPad, and my laptop with me, and the plane goes down.
You got a problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
now I have an iMac here on my desk, so that she can get in. Because of the Apple two-factor authentication, if she had to,
it makes it harder.
If she had to do two-factor, that would be difficult. So Apple's got to improve their support here. That's an area where Apple is behind a lot of other people on this. So.
Well, and it actually even extends to their hardware, because if nobody has your code to get in your phone and they don't have your Apple user ID password, that becomes a brick.
Yes.
Nobody can reuse it. The only exception is, and this is what I had to deal with my client, is if she had proof that she purchased the phone, even though it was her daughter's phone, then she couldn't get to any of the contents, but she could ask to wipe it.
Right.
And then she could reuse it. That was true for the iPad and the iPhone. The iMac I could wipe. I could wipe that, but basically, as far as they're concerned, and I think the newest version of the Mac OS will make it a locked device also, so that you can't wipe it again.
Interesting.
Unless you've got those things. So that's a big concern.
Yes, if anybody's watched the Netflix series Black Mirror, the most recent season, this was actually a key element. This idea of the survivors trying to get into this mom was trying to get into her daughter's. It wasn't Twitter. It was whatever the fake equivalent was, her account. And this guy essentially had to take hostages in order to convince them to get to try to get them to give the password. I'm not going to spoil it, but. That's the thing. It's like you don't want to end up in a situation where someone is desperate to get into your account to get what they can to connect with you when you're gone. So think about this stuff. One of the things that I recommend, and I have to admit I haven't been as good with this as I'm about to be, is it's a notebook essentially that you can download. It's a PDF and an Excel spreadsheet called the Big Book of Everything. And it's literally everything. You download this and you fill it out, and you will put an unimaginable amount of stuff on this. Every password, every bill, personal information, adoption information, pet information, previous addresses, your current resume, your employment history, school history, transcripts, military history, your credit report, locations of all your documents, your emergency plan, travel information, information every safe and storage, bank accounts, investments, retirement plans, all your liabilities and outstanding obligations and debts, everything about insurance, everything about medical history, all of your final arrangements information. I mean, soup to nuts. This is literally the Big Book of Everything. If
you have time to fill it out.
Right. You should start now. I mean, it's 55 pages, and then you could put in other things like your passwords and your other stuff, like the password pages. I mean, there's stuff for that in here. There's actually places for some of that in here, but you could.
Some of it changes too often to actually write it in there. You just have to attach it.
Right.
Somehow.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, so first, print this out and fill it out, and also maybe put a digital version somewhere of it, online in a cloud storage place that's secure and safe from prying eyes. And then every 6 months or a year, I mean, 6 months is probably better, but at least once a year, go back and check it and update it, because your information changes over time. You should be doing this. I mean, it's a sound like a pain in the neck, probably, but hey, suck it up and do something nice for someone for when you're not there for them. That's really what it's about. This isn't about you. It's about the people you leave behind. So print it out, fill it out, review it every year, keep it up to date. So it's the Big Book of Everything. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's at ericdewey.com. He's had this online for years now, and he's been updating it on a regular basis too. So, anything we missed on this, or?
Well, one other comment, we're Apple fan people, I know, but there are Android people out there. And with an Android, you can wipe the devices without having to know what the password is. You can't get into them, but
Right.
you can wipe them.
Right.
So that would be something you could say, well, so-and-so gets my Pixel
Right.
or whatever.
Right. I want to be buried with my iPhone. I'm taking
Rosary
it with
in
me.
one hand and iPhone in the other.
So, all right. So, folks, if you have any thing you want to add to this discussion, anything we missed, or any questions that we might try to answer in a future show, we're not lawyers, so we can't answer estate planning questions, but any technology related questions, we could try to answer them. Please let us know. Technology@sqpn.com. We'd love to do what we can. It's an important subject that I don't think it's talked about often enough in technology circles. And so let's have this conversation on a regular basis.
One other comment I wanted to make is we did have a lawyer in with us with the classes we were doing, and she made a big point of saying it is not illegal for you to use your passwords from your wife's account to get into her account if she's not available.
Right.
It's against their policies. But don't be afraid that you're going to be doing something illegal by using their passwords.
That's a
it's
good
fine.
point. Yeah, you're not a hacker if you're just going into their account. Excellent. This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of the StarQuest Production Network, with a special message seeking your support. StarQuest needs your help. Over the past year, we've grown by leaps and bounds. Every month, we produce dozens of shows covering numerous topics and all explore the intersection of faith and pop culture, which is the core of our mission. Some, like Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, are among the most popular shows StarQuest has ever produced in all its 13-year history, and our newest shows, like American Catholic History, are catching fire with new audiences. We're fulfilling our mission of evangelization in a whole new way, but that success is in danger. We must reach the financial break-even point if we're going to continue. Creating, editing, producing, distributing, and promoting a dozen shows have caused our expenses to rise, and we are no longer making ends meet. We're rapidly eating through our reserves, and soon they'll be gone, and we'll have to cut back many of our shows. We might even have to shut down altogether. That's why it's crucial we hear from you right now. If you haven't yet become a supporter, please do so now. If you are a supporter, please prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. Please visit sqpn.com/give today and click the Become a Patron button to make your monthly pledge. Or to give a one-time gift, click the Donate button. When you become a patron, you'll have access to exclusive benefits and several special thank you gifts for supporting StarQuest at different levels. The need is urgent, so please go to sqpn.com/give today. Thank you from all of us at StarQuest, and God bless you. May we hear from you today? So I do want to run through some headlines quickly in our next segment. Some interesting things that have come out in the news over the past few weeks. As the summer comes to a close here in the Northern Hemisphere, and the fall's about to begin, we're going to get a lot more tech news coming, a lot of releases of new equipment and devices and that sort of stuff. But so the summer has been a little slow, but there has been news. And one of the first bits of news was Google is talking about, and has been talking about for years, frankly, but they're really ramping up the talk about replacing passwords as a means of identifying users. And in fact, they're talking about they're planning to take 1.7 billion Android users off of passwords very soon. Now, quote unquote, whatever now actually means. What do you think of this, Pat? What do you think of this drive to get rid of passwords? Presumably replacing with biometrics, I guess, right?
Well, there's lots of different ways. The authenticator apps are one way that they're talking about doing it. Microsoft's already saying that, and Yahoo's already saying that you can use your username and an authenticator app to get into your machine or to get into your account or whatever. Not all of them have been converted, but Microsoft's pushing it hard, and Yahoo's been pushing it hard on their email account to say, you don't need a password. Just type in the code you've got that we sent you on your phone.
Right.
And so I I think with the horrible amount of password breaches, we've got to do something else. Whether it's biometrics is a problem for people with fingers that don't keep the ridges as they age.
Yes.
There's other issues with facial recognition, but authenticator apps seem to be at least something that most people, if they're having a digital device, could get access to.
As long as they don't lose the device or have it break or...
That's true. And there needs to be another way that they can get in and say, here's who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that's not the last frontier. There are other ways than that, for instance, like with Yahoo, if you can't get the authenticator code, maybe you've got a second email, or maybe you've got a second phone number that you could call.
Right.
With Facebook, it's give us a list of your 7 best friends, and we'll, we can go check with them and see if this is really you.
Right. That's a really good idea. Father Andrew, what do you think about this drive to get rid of passwords?
I think it's where we got to go. I get a bit nervous with all the data breaches and the lists of millions of passwords that have been compromised. So something's got to happen. And passwords, since I use 1Password, I don't even hardly know what my passwords are, but they're super long and super complicated. But if someone gets hold of that string of characters, they can't get into my Facebook because I have 2-factor authentication. But I had someone try to attempt to log into my account just about a week ago, and it just kind of rattled me a little bit. And of course they couldn't get in and nothing happened, but it was and I immediately changed my password. But I think biometrics is kind of the natural way to go. It seems like with Face ID and with the fingerprint scanners, but obviously there's complications there and it's not going to work for everyone. So yeah. I'm interested to see where this technology goes, but I'm excited for it too, because I think it has to go somewhere.
Security, I've heard it said, security can be something a password, something you are, biometrics, or something you have, an authentication device. And right. Best is 2 or 3 of those things, but, right now we're reliant on the worst of those, which is the thing which means someone else can know it too. Yep. So that's, we do have to fix that. So our next headline is I love the headline. The guy who built Twitter's retweet button admits maybe that was a really bad idea. That's from Gizmodo, yep. And they're talking about this guy. So for those of you who haven't been around forever, like I have, Twitter when it started didn't have retweeting or even @mentions. It was just a broadcast service. You just spoke into the ether. All those things were added later, and hashtags as well. Those were new. But the guy who wrote it, his name's Chris Wetherell, and he says we might have just handed a 4-year-old a loaded weapon, is how he phrased it. That at the time that he invented it, and he says that's what I actually think. Now, one of the things he says is they thought it was going to be a streamlining a process of people sharing interesting content, but now it's become a way of spreading bad information. It's just, in fact, misinformation and bad and intentionally bad information spreads at an incredible rate through retweets. What do you think about that? Does the good outweigh the bad with the retweeting? I mean, can you imagine a world where sharing a tweet is not easy?
Copy and paste. You can share it that way.
We did used to do that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's what we need to do is kill the retweet.
What do you think, Father?
I sort of feel hypocritical because I do use it on occasion, but I agree that I think it's sort of the lazy way out of it, and it makes Twitter feel like high school and the drama, and we pick out one bad thing about someone and it spreads like wildfire, or fake news, or whatever it is. I was reading the article, and they talked about the whole point was like, if there's natural emergencies, if there's earthquakes, if there's fires, it would be a handy way to get the information out there quickly. To be honest, I don't see any of those sorts of things spread on Twitter. It's always the slander, just the bad stuff. And Twitter, I I like it, but I find it a toxic sort of environment too, depending on who you follow. And even if you're following good people, it's like walking into junior high all over again, and you're just bombarded by everything. And okay, I'm just going to get out of here for now. And
well, one of the things I hate is how the news media treats number of retweets as measure of newsworthiness. If a tweet gets 50,000 tweets, that means it's important. No, it doesn't. It means 50,000 people clicked a button.
It's interesting how that does, though, at least have some sort of influence in terms of public opinion. Like I was following some of the news on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yes.
And when they released the trailer of it, Sonic looked horrible.
Yes.
And the fan outcry was so much that they have vowed to redo the design for Sonic. And I'm sure, Twitter played a huge role in that and all the outcry that came out of it. So
right.
It's influential. I don't think it's necessarily good influential in most cases, but it is influential, at least from a cultural perspective.
I suppose it's debatable whether it still would have been influential if it wasn't retweeted as opposed to people just expressing themselves.
Sure.
With the hashtag, say, this gun got hashtagged by 1 million accounts.
But you find that one meme that like captures the essence, and that gets retweeted and retweeted and retweeted.
It does.
Now, was it Twitter or which one it was that was getting rid of the likes on the tweets too?
I think it's Twitter that's thinking of and probably going to get rid of likes.
Right, because again, they said that it was used so much for bullying and for things like that were negative that they said it's not doing what we hoped it would.
That's really
so
weird.
They were talking about getting rid of it.
I thought I'm not sure what Twitter's doing, but I think Instagram was thinking about removing the number attached with the likes, not necessarily removing the like button, but removing the number.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what I was
So
remembering.
it would do the same thing, that you'd know that people liked your photo, but you wouldn't know how many hundreds or thousands or 10.
That's actually a big deal. I've seen articles talking about like in middle school girl circles, that a lot of self-worth is poured into how many and who liked this photo I took of myself, that sort of stuff, which it seems so silly to us as adults, especially as adult men, but it doesn't either, because I when I was in high school, we had MySpace, and I remember, I feel so immature for thinking how I was, 15 years ago. But it offended me when my friends, who I put as my top 8 friends, they didn't reciprocate. Yes.
And that was a big deal. And that was a social status sort of thing. And I, felt very wounded by some of that. And now looking back, it seems absolutely silly. But in junior high and high school, when you're still not entirely sure who you are and you're not comfortable with who you are and you don't necessarily love yourself for the way that God created you, you put more stock in what other people say and think. And that's, of course, just silly and bogus. But as a 15-year-old, it's everything.
Well, as
devastating.
As a 50-plus-year-old, when someone follows me on like Twitter or Instagram and I don't follow them back, I feel awkward. I'm like, I hope they don't get offended, but I'm not following them back. I just can't follow everybody.
Tom, you're not following me.
Some of them I don't think I should. They tend to be young ladies whose names don't match the other names on their account. You know what I mean? Fake accounts. Anyway, Speaking of fake content online, our third headline is basically we're a public service. Facebook is not about to make your content public again. Okay, this is 2012 has shown up with its hoaxes, ready to foist them on us again. It's going around. I've seen some of my friends on Facebook sharing it. Facebook isn't going to tomorrow make everyone's content publicly available unless you post this warning saying Facebook you're not allowed to. It's not how the law works. It's not how social media works. And it's not how any company will work. So it's not happening. And we saw on Instagram, it's been spread too. And even celebrities are not immune to it. We saw a bunch of celebrities were spreading the hoax. So don't spread hoaxes, folks. All right. So that brings us to our picks of the week. Father Andrew, what's your pick of the week this week?
My pick of the week is a app called Snapseed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a photo editing app, and it's available on Android or iOS. It was developed by Nik Software, which was purchased by Google back in 2012. So Snapseed was actually developed by them prior to that, but it's now owned by Google. So it's a Google app, but it's essentially Photoshop, but on your phone to a much lesser degree. And I found it to be just super helpful. It does a way better job of editing, adding filters, drawing out. It's super good with high dynamic range filters. So HDR filters, pulling out different brightnesses, darkness, pulling out more vibrant colors, those sorts of things. And I've just we've had a couple food truck rallies here at the cathedral, and we took some kind of overarching shots of the event, and my pictures looked kind of lame, and my buddy, the IT director here at the cathedral, like used Snapseed and made them look all vibrant and really cool, and so I had to get the same app as he did. But it's really cool to just draw out colors and stuff, and really just a good app that does more than what's built into the Photos app or what's built into Instagram or any of those sorts of things. So Snapseed is my pick of the week.
That's a good one. Nik used to be, they used to make Photoshop filters before Google acquired them, and some of the best on the market at the time. So they know their stuff with manipulating photos. So Pat, what's your pick of the week?
Well, before I give my pick of the week, I'd like to add on to your pick of Snapseed in the digital legacy area, because one of the things that one of our people in the class was talking about is we don't have the photos in the shoebox anymore with the writing on the back to say who it was in there. So what she's doing and suggesting people do is use Snapseed, because it's very easy to put a border along the bottom of the picture and write in, this was Dom and Melanie at their wedding rehearsal or whatever. You don't have to put the date on there because your photo's got the date probably. But, put the pertinent information right on the photo on the ones that are important. Not all of them, obviously. So Snapseed, she said, was the easiest way to do that. So I believe her.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is super easy.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, so my pick of the week is the new Apple Card, the new Apple credit card. I was on the advance list of getting a invite to get it early, and so I took advantage of it. And it's super easy to set up, and basically you can set it up in your wallet on an iPhone, and it's kind of got a real shimmery color on it when you first set it up. But then as you make purchases, the color changes based upon the type of purchase you make.
Of course,
which is just kind of silly, but it's pretty. It really is.
Yeah.
And you can find out what your actual CVC code or CVV code and the expiration date and the number right in the app. You can go to a place in there, say, I want more information about my card, and it'll show that all to you, so that you could then use it on a website that you couldn't otherwise use Apple Pay on. You can also set up a new number. So I'm saying I'm going to a website. I don't know who this vendor is. I'm going to buy it from. Give me a new number so I can use that number, and therefore
it's a unique number only for that one purchase. Yeah.
Right. I don't know that it has an expiration on it, but the idea being is you could set up a new number at any point.
Yes.
And use that. And it was real easy to make it to go in and say, I want that to be the credit card my Amazon account uses, or something like that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they have something that shows you very visually how much is on your account and how many days it is before your payment and how much interest you'd be paying if you didn't pay it off by then. And you can make partial payments and see what that does to your interest. And they don't charge late fees, but they could increase interest if somebody had a history of late payments. Then they might up their interest fee.
That's a big thing. There are no fees on it, no late fees, no annual fee. But like you said, if you don't pay, they'll raise your interest rate, and you'll end up paying one way or the other.
Right. And basically, the other thing is that even though in the app you can see a list of your purchases, they say Apple does not have a list of those purchases that they have access to track you.
Right.
They're not tracking you that way.
Yeah. And so the other thing is it's always, if you buy something from the Apple Store or Apple, it's you get 3% cash back, 2% for all other digital Apple Pay type purchases, and 1% if you use the titanium card that the physical card, you get.
And
1%
I think
back.
it may be 1% if you're using that card number somewhere online that's not identified as Apple Pay.
Right. And the big benefit is that it's secure. That's just like with Apple Pay. It's a secure service. It keeps the number secure, and that's one of the reasons why they want to make it easy for people to get it. So very good. Thank you. So my pick of the week is an AirPod case. Now you might want to wait. AirPods come with a case, but this is a case for the case. I'm going to make a case for my case to have a case. So this is hard-won experience because I can't tell you how many times I washed pants with my AirPods in the pocket, thus ruining my AirPods. The first time I did it, the AirPods worked. The second time I did it, the AirPods did not work quite as consistently. And so I went online, I went on Amazon, and I found this case. And what it is, it's a waterproof case. It slips on very tight, like a neoprene suit, like you're putting a wetsuit on your iPod. And what happens is the top of it flips open or closed. You kind of peel it back like a banana to open it. But when and it will stay peeled back until you flip it back, and then you close it, and then you peel it back up over the top. I don't know, peel it up. I don't know. Anyway, but you put it back, and it is waterproof, and it also has something to cover the hole in the bottom for the lightning port. So it's really good. So I'm not going to intentionally run it through the wash for you, but it's really good. It also comes with a little carabiner clip on it. And what I do with that is I put a tile on it, one of those tile trackers. See, AirPods, they say, oh, you could use Find My Phone to find a missing AirPod. Yeah, that's if you've dropped one of the earbuds. But if you drop the case, it doesn't find the case for you. There's no way for it to alert you to the case's location. That's why the tile tracker's on it, because that will take me to the case. So, and it means it's now just a little bulkier enough that I'm not leaving it in my pocket to go through the wash anymore. So I'm going to suggest that there are a bunch of different cases online. The one I have, it's a little pricier. It's $25, but it's a really good case. And frankly, I'd rather pay $25 than lose $150, if you know what I mean. So that's my pick of the week. So before we finish out, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including Jimmy C., Ernie M., Clint V., Allison H., and Jeff G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. That's right, folks. The future of our shows is dependent on people who financially support us so that we can pay the bills and keep doing this. It's not free for certain. And you can join them in supporting the Secrets of Technology by going to sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. What did you think of our discussion about these various topics? We do want to hear from you, so you can go to sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Or you can send us an email to technology@sqpn.com. And of course, I'm going to put a whole bunch of links to everything we talked about on our show notes at sqpn.com. If you can help us out, we really would appreciate if you could go to Apple Podcasts or one of the podcast directories and write a review of the show. A nice 5-star review really helps us out as people are trying to find the next podcast they want to listen to, and they'll see that and your good words, and they'll say, this is the one for us. Or if you want, you can also share the podcast with your friends, and maybe you know some people who really need to hear about the digital legacy information that we've shared with you today. Please pass that along. We really appreciate it. Until next time, Father Andrew Kinstetter, thank you for joining me in sharing the Secrets of Technology.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Pat Scott, thank you as well.
It's great to be here.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.